The world is watching. Eyes from every corner of the globe are fixed on the unfolding events in the West Philippine Sea, as uncertainty and anxiety ripple across continents. Just hours ago, reports broke of U.S. warships moving into the West Philippine Sea. The sight of these powerful vessels cutting through the waves signals a dramatic escalation in the region's ongoing disputes. Fighter jets roar overhead, slicing through the humid air. Radar screens fill with new blips, each one representing a potential threat. News anchors and military analysts talk of a possible showdown between the United States and China, speculating on what could come next. The air is thick with tension, and people across Asia follow every update with bated breath. This isn't just another military exercise. There's a sense that history is being written in real time. The US is flexing its muscles, making a clear statement. They will not stand by if China pushes too far. The presence of American forces sends a message of deterrence, but also raises the risk of miscalculation. Crowds gather in Manila, worried but hopeful. Social media buzzes with photos of American ships and sailors patrolling the blue waters near the Philippines. Hashtags trend as people share their hopes, fears, and opinions about what might happen next. For many, these events feel like a movie come to life, full of suspense and uncertainty. But this is real, and the consequences could be profound for millions. Leaders in Beijing, Washington, and Manila scramble to respond. Every hour brings new statements, new warnings, and new risks. Behind closed doors, diplomats and military officials work frantically to prevent the situation from spiraling out of control. The world holds its breath, wondering what will happen next. In the days ahead, the stakes could not be higher, as the possibility of conflict looms over the region like a dark cloud. The West Philippine Sea, once a quiet stretch of ocean, has become Asia's most dangerous flashpoint. The next moves by world leaders could shape the future of the entire region, and perhaps the world. The West Philippine Sea is a part of the vast South China Sea, a region that stretches over 3.5 million square kilometers. It is not just a body of water, but a crossroads of history, culture, and commerce. For decades, countries have argued over who owns these waters. The disputes are not new. They go back generations, shaped by colonial history, shifting borders, and the rise of new powers in Asia. The Philippines, China, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, and Taiwan all claim parts of it. Their claims overlap, creating a tangled web of boundaries that is difficult to untangle. The heart of the conflict is about islands, reefs, rocks, and the sea around them. Some of these features are barely visible at high tide, yet they are fiercely contested. One key area is the Spratly Islands. Dozens of small islands and reefs dot this area. Some are just sandbars at high tide, but they are claimed, occupied, and even built up with airstrips and buildings. But they are surrounded by rich fishing grounds and possible oil and gas reserves. These resources are vital for the economies of the region, supporting millions of people who depend on the sea for their livelihoods. Another hotspot is Scarborough Shoal. It is close to the Philippine coast, but claimed by China too. This small group of rocks has become a flashpoint, with Coast Guard ships from both countries often facing off. These places may seem small, but they matter. Whoever controls them can control shipping lanes, rich natural resources, and military routes. Over a third of global shipping passes through these waters, making them crucial for international trade. In 2016, an international court said China's sweeping claims have no legal basis. China disagrees and keeps building. Artificial islands now bristle with radar domes, runways, and military outposts, raising tensions even higher. For the people who live around the West Philippine Sea, the dispute is personal. Fishermen lose access to their traditional waters. Coast guards face off at sea. Local communities worry about their future and their safety. The world worries that one mistake here could spark a wider war. The stakes are high, and the eyes of the world remain fixed on these troubled waters, hoping for peace but preparing for the worst. In recent years, China has taken bold steps to expand its influence in the region, making its presence felt on the world stage like never before. Their navy has grown stronger, with more advanced ships and submarines joining the fleet every year. China now boasts one of the largest navies in the world, capable of projecting power far beyond its shores. Their Coast Guard ships patrol the disputed waters more often than ever, asserting their claims and showing a constant presence in areas where tensions run high. But China's most dramatic move is building artificial islands in the Spratlys. They dredge up sand, pour concrete, and construct runways, radars, and even missile sites. These islands rise from the sea, transforming once empty reefs into fortified outposts. Satellite images show these new islands turning into military bases. Chinese warplanes and missiles can now reach farther into Asia, giving China a strategic advantage and the ability to respond quickly to any perceived threat. Fishing boats from other countries are chased away. Sometimes water cannons and lasers are used to force them out. These confrontations are becoming more frequent, raising the risk of accidental escalation. China says it is just protecting its territory and ensuring its sovereignty. But others see it as a power grab, a way to dominate the region and intimidate neighbors. The world's busiest shipping lanes pass through these waters. 1/3 of global trade travels here, making the South China Sea vital not just for China, but for the entire world economy. If China controls this area, it gains huge economic and military power. Tensions rise each time a new ship arrives or a new runway opens, as neighboring countries and global powers watch closely. The fear is that one small clash between coast guards or fishing boats could quickly grow into a major crisis. In these crowded and contested waters, even a minor incident could spark a much larger conflict, drawing in nations from around the world. The Philippines sits at the front line of this dispute. Its fishermen rely on the sea for their livelihood. Philippine Navy and Coast Guard ships patrol the waters, but they are often outnumbered by Chinese vessels. Sometimes these patrols lead to tense standoffs. Philippine leaders face tough choices. They want to protect their territory, but they know China is much stronger. In 2016, the Philippines won a big case in an international court. The court ruled that China's 9-line claim had no legal basis. But China ignored the decision. Ordinary Filipinos feel the impact. Their fishing boats are blocked from traditional grounds. Some face harassment or even arrest. Protests break out in cities like Manila, calling for a stronger response. Despite the risks, the Philippines keeps defending its claims. It has asked allies for help and pushed for more international support. The stakes are high, not just for its economy, but for national pride and security. Now, the United States is making its presence felt. U.S. warships patrol the West Philippine Sea, sending a message to China. Fighter jets land on nearby carriers. American military leaders say they are showing support for the Philippines, a treaty ally. So why is the U.S. involved? Well, it wants to protect freedom of navigation, the idea that no one country should control these busy waters. American leaders worry that if China dominates the sea, global trade and security will be at risk. The U.S. also wants to reassure its friends in the region. The American response is more than just ships and planes. Joint exercises with the Philippines and other countries grow larger every year. These drills train forces to respond quickly if things go wrong. China sees the U.S. as meddling in its backyard. But for many in Asia, American involvement is a sign of hope. They believe it keeps the balance of power and deters further aggression. Military alliances are now in the spotlight. The United States and the Philippines have a defense treaty. This means if one is attacked, the other will help. Recently, the United States has expanded military access to Philippine bases, bringing troops and equipment closer to trouble spots. Joint military exercises are becoming routine. American, Filipino, Japanese, and Australian forces train together. They practice defending islands, rescuing ships, and responding to emergencies. These drills send a clear message to China. The region is united in defense. Other countries are watching too. Vietnam, Malaysia, and Indonesia strengthen their navies. Some join in multilateral drills. They all want to protect their own claims and keep sea lanes open. The result is a region bristling with military power. Alliances provide reassurance, but also increase the risk of mistakes. A single miscalculation during a tense patrol could draw many countries into conflict. Beyond the military, the West Philippine Sea is an economic lifeline. Over $3 trillion in trade flows through these waters each year. Oil tankers and cargo ships cross daily, linking Asia to the world. Any conflict here would shake global markets. Fisheries are another key issue. Millions depend on the sea for food and jobs. When tensions spike, fishing grounds close. Local economies suffer. Illegal fishing and environmental damage grow worse as countries rush to secure resources. Energy is also at stake. Experts believe there are large oil and gas reserves under the sea. Control of these resources could change the fortunes of any claimant country. China is investing heavily in offshore exploration, while others rush to follow. This is why neighbors like Japan and South Korea watch closely. Even countries far away, like the United States and those in Europe, have a stake. The West Philippine Sea is not just Asia's problem, it is the world's concern. The situation remains tense. There are several ways things could unfold. Diplomacy could cool tensions. Talks between China, the Philippines, and the United States might lead to new agreements or joint patrols. This would bring hope for peace and shared prosperity, but the risk of conflict is real. One wrong move, a collision, a shot fired by accident, could trigger a dangerous escalation. Military alliances mean that a small incident could pull in many countries, turning a local dispute into a regional war. Another future could see a long, cold standoff. Ships and planes face off, but open fighting never begins. Tensions simmer, but trade and diplomacy continue. This is risky, but better than open war. Some hope for a breakthrough. Maybe a joint development deal for oil and gas. Maybe a new code of conduct for ships at sea. The world hopes for calm, but prepares for the worst. The West Philippine Sea showdown is a test for the world. United States forces mobilize, China stands firm, and the Philippines seeks support. Every decision here matters. The risks are high. A clash could disrupt the global economy and bring suffering to millions. Leaders face a choice. Will they find a way to share these seas or push each other toward conflict? Military power brings both security and danger. Economic interests tie nations together, but also spark rivalry. For now, the world holds its breath. Is this show of force a step toward peace or a path to greater risk? Only time and wise leadership will decide. As the tension simmers in the West Philippine Sea, the world waits, but not in silence. Across Asia, neighboring countries are recalibrating their strategies. Diplomatic channels buzz with urgent conversations. ASEAN nations, wary of escalation, call for restraint and renewed dialogue. Indonesia and Vietnam voice their concerns, seeking peaceful solutions to protect their own maritime claims. Australia and Japan offer support to regional partners, urging respect for international law. Meanwhile, back-channel negotiations intensify, with diplomats working tirelessly behind closed doors to prevent missteps that could ignite open conflict. The crisis in the West Philippine Sea has become more than a territorial dispute. It's a catalyst for new alliances, cautious compromises, and a region-wide search for stability. In these uncertain times, the hope for peace rests not just on military might, but on the power of diplomacy and cooperation. The next chapter for Asia's seas will be written by those willing to talk, listen, and find common ground. Beyond the diplomatic chessboard and military maneuvers, the West Philippine Sea crisis sends powerful shockwaves through the global economy. These waters are more than a flashpoint. They're a lifeline. Nearly one-third of the world's shipping passes through these contested seas, carrying trillions of dollars worth of goods every year. As tensions rise, insurance rates for commercial vessels soar and shipping companies reroute, causing delays and driving up costs worldwide. Ports in the Philippines, Vietnam, and Malaysia brace for disruptions, while exporters across Asia worry about bottlenecks and lost revenue. The price of vital resources, oil, gas, and even everyday electronics, threatens to climb, impacting consumers from Tokyo to New York. For small fishermen and local businesses, the uncertainty means lost livelihoods and rising hardship. The world's interconnected economies depend on these trade routes flowing smoothly. As the crisis deepens, the stakes grow higher, not just for governments and militaries, but for every business, worker, and family linked to Asia's seas. The economic story of the West Philippine Sea is a reminder peace and stability here ripple far beyond the horizon, shaping prosperity across the globe. As the waves of conflict and commerce crash in the West Philippine Sea, another force quietly works behind the scenes: international organizations. Chief among them, the United Nations serves as the world's diplomatic referee, urging dialogue and adherence to international law. Through the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, known as UNCLOS, rules are set, boundaries are outlined, and disputes are meant to be resolved peacefully. But in practice, enforcing these agreements is complex. The International Court of Justice and the Permanent Court of Arbitration have both weighed in, issuing rulings and offering legal pathways for resolution. Yet, their decisions often face resistance from powerful states, and implementation can be slow or incomplete. Beyond the courts, organizations like ASEAN strive to keep communication open between neighbors, hosting talks and pushing for a binding code of conduct in these troubled waters. Meanwhile, the world watches as peacekeepers, mediators, and diplomats work tirelessly to cool tempers and foster compromise. The role of these global institutions may be limited by politics and power, but their presence offers hope, a reminder that even in the stormiest seas, the world's nations can seek common ground. In the end, the quest for peace in the West Philippine Sea may depend not just on ships or soldiers, but on the strength of international cooperation and the rule of law. While governments debate and navies patrol, the real impact of the West Philippine Sea dispute is often felt far from the negotiating tables, on the shorelines and fishing boats of ordinary people. For generations, coastal communities in the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, and China have relied on these waters for their livelihoods. Now, rising tensions have cast a shadow over daily life. Meet Mang Tonyo, a Filipino fisherman from Palawan. He recalls, "Before, we could fish freely. Now, we're afraid. Sometimes foreign ships chase us away. We just want to provide for our families." Across the sea, Nguyen, a young Vietnamese fisherwoman, shares a similar worry. "It's harder to catch fish now. There are more patrols, and sometimes we see strange ships. We hope for peace, so we can work without fear." In Malaysia, local traders express concern over economic uncertainty, while in China, some coastal residents voice national pride, but also yearn for stability and open waters. "We want our country to be strong, but we also hope for understanding with our neighbors," says Lu, a shop owner in Hainan. Despite different backgrounds and beliefs, these voices reveal common threads: concern for safety, hope for peace, and the desire to preserve a way of life. Their stories remind us that behind every headline and diplomatic statement are real people, whose futures depend on what happens next in these contested waters. As the world's eyes remain fixed on the West Philippine Sea, it's the everyday experiences and aspirations of ordinary citizens that truly capture the human cost and the enduring hope for a peaceful resolution. As the sun sets over the contested waters of the West Philippine Sea, the horizon remains uncertain. The stories of Mang Tonyo, Nguyen, Lu, and countless others echo a shared yearning for stability. But what does the future truly hold for this critical region? Experts warn that without sustained diplomatic engagement, the risk of accidental clashes or calculated confrontations remains high. The rapid modernization of regional navies, the construction of new outposts, and the race for resources all serve as potential flashpoints. Yet there are also signs of hope, ongoing dialogues, joint resource management talks, and growing calls for multilateral cooperation. The path to lasting peace will be neither quick nor easy. It will require trust building, respect for international law, and the willingness of all parties to put the well-being of their people above political ambitions. Regional organizations, global powers, and the communities who call these shores home must work together to transform tension into trust. In the coming years, the choices made by leaders and the resilience of everyday citizens will shape the fate of Asia's most volatile waters. Will the West Philippine Sea remain a symbol of conflict, or can it become a beacon of cooperation? Only time will tell. One thing is certain: the world will be watching, and the hope for peace endures just beyond the waves.